Welcome everybody. Good morning. Thanks for coming out and everybody online, and maybe watching this afterwards. It's our anxiety workshop. This is number one because anxiety is a huge topic. So, I'd like to welcome everybody. So, everybody say hi. All right. Now, you guys are way in the back and I can't see you, right? So, I just see a lot of blurry faces. So if you're not smiling, I won't be able to tell. And if you're growling, I got to hear something. So I'm Jamie. I'm from Milton. So no guests there. Everybody knows me. So hope this workshop is a safe place for you to talk about stress. And we're going to get into it right away. So this is basically how I'm going to go through it. And the difference between stress and anxiety. Does anybody know the difference besides Balfour between stress and anxiety? Because they're actually two different topics. If you get them confused, you won't be able to work on one or the other because there's different styles that you need to do to work on both things. So to work on stress, you use A, B, and C. To work on anxiety, you use D, E, and F. And there's a little crossover, but not as much as you would think. So here's the difference between stress and anxiety. For stress, it's generally it's a response to an external cause, as taking a big test or arguing with a friend. It's some event that happens externally and your response to it. It goes away once the situation is resolved. Like public speaking makes my mouth dry, sends me into a panic attack, all kinds of stuff. But once I'm finished public speaking, it goes away. Isn't that great how that works? I only have to endure it for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And it can be positive or negative. For example, it may inspire you to meet a deadline, or it can cause you to lose sleep. And I'm going to be focusing on that a lot this morning, the positive and negative effects of stress. On the anxiety side, it's generally an internal, meaning that it's your response to stress, or it's something internal, a response to thinking, or a response to some future event, or a response to fear. And a lot of times, anxiety and fear have a lot in common. In fact, anxiety and fear have more in common than anxiety and stress. But we'll talk more about that. It usually involves a persistent feeling of apprehension or dread that doesn't go away and interferes with you and your life. So anxiety is this little something that hangs around in the pit of your gut and just constantly tells you something's wrong or something's wrong with me. And when you're talking anxiety, it's kind of with you all the time. There are thoughts going on in the back of your head. There are feelings that are strumming up in your stomach, and all the while, stress is kind of going with these thoughts working in the background, and inside you're going, oh no, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen to me. Something bad's going to happen to my family. This is going to, there's always something going on, and you really don't start it. You really don't finish it. It just hangs out there and makes your life miserable. You understand anxiety a little bit? And it's constant, even if there's no immediate threat. The problem with anxiety is once you start down that anxiety road, it kind of stays there. It stays there in the pit of your stomach, in the back of your head, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it never stops. When does stress stop? Yeah, once the situation has been resolved, once the time has passed, stress goes away and you feel better. Not so with anxiety. It doesn't have to really have an event to start. It really doesn't close with, an event closing. It just keeps going on and on and on. Good morning. And really, there's kind of no rhyme to reason of it once it starts. Are you seeing kind of the difference between the two? All right, now here's what they both have in common. That's the middle column. Both stress and anxiety can affect your mind and body, and you may experience symptoms such as excessive worry, uneasiness, tension, headaches or body pain, high blood pressure, loss of sleep. Now, when you experience this, what are you thinking? I know what most people are thinking. Most people say, I have stress and anxiety, or if it's stress, they say I have anxiety, or if it's anxiety, they say I have stress. They don't really know the difference. So they just put them together. Oh, I'm so anxious. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people say stuff like that, but they're actually two different things. What is the problem with stress and anxiety? And you might already kind of sense it right now. What's the problem with it? What? Burnout. You know what burnout is? That's the stress side. Anxiety doesn't burn you out. It sends you crazy. Stress just makes you take a vacation. Here's the big problem with it. Both stress and anxiety can have the same symptoms. They can feel the same emotionally, but and people use stress and anxiety as the same thing, but they are not the same. They are totally different. And if you don't deal with them in different ways, you really haven't addressed the situation.
You said each one has its own tool set for dealing.
Yeah, and once you feel that you're anxious or stressed, really you got to think through it to say, is this stress or is this anxiety? Is this something I can work on my own, or is this something I need help with? And really, you've got to be able to tell the difference and get a handle on what each of them are. Most people have a general clue, oh, this is stress, this is anxiety, but they don't separate them at the therapeutic level. And if you don't do that, you can't fix it. You got a question, Balfour? No, stress can be emotions, but it can also be a physical, it's physiological. They both affect you physiologically. They can affect your mind, they can affect your body, they can affect a lot of things. And generally speaking, there is a feeling associated with it, which we call anxiousness. Yes, or the emotion of stress, depending on how you define it. Or you can say, I'm stressed and anxious. We kind of use it interchangeably. And like I said, back here, both stress and anxiety have the same symptoms. So if you're looking at somebody and they're like, oh, I can't take this. It's just, this is too much. I can't handle this. Is that stress or anxiety? Yeah, you don't know enough yet. It could be, yeah, toss a good. It could be one or the other, or it could be both, because you don't know, because you're dealing with a feeling. And they both feel the same way, or they can. Now, anxiety usually feels a little bit worse once it gets rolling. But again, stress can feel pretty bad depending on what the stress is. So it's hard to tell. You really have to think through the situation. You have to get your definitions down. And part of this workshop is helping you tell the difference, because I cannot work on anxiety while you're thinking stress. And when I'm dealing with stress, if you're thinking anxiety, it's not going to work. So you need to be pretty clear about what the difference is. Stress is a physiological response, usually connected to an external event or trigger, and can be amplified by internal stressors such as perfectionism or high expectations of oneself. Stress is usually felt when the demands on us are being experienced as greater than the resources we have to deal with them. You owe a loan shark $100, but you only have 50. That is stress. You need more than what you got. You see the picture? Stress can be short-term. For example, you may be stressed out about an upcoming exam next week, or could be longer term. For example, if you lose your job and you're in difficult financial situation for a few months. The key here is that once the exam is over, you find a new job, your stress level will decrease or resolve itself completely. Do you understand stress? Do you understand the definition? Okay. Most people don't understand the difference between stress and anxiety, so we got to learn it.
There's a direct cause and effect for stress.
Usually. Yeah. Now, not always. We're dealing with emotional fluff. Okay. And when you deal with emotional fluff, sometimes stress doesn't have to start with an event. It can start with a thought about what's coming up. For instance, I stay late at work and I look at my clock and I say, "Ooh, it's 9:30 and I haven't phoned home yet." And it's like, uh-oh. And while I'm driving home, I'm experiencing stress and anxiety because I'm about to face you. And I'm saying, I can't tell the difference between the two. And at that point, it doesn't matter because my life's going to end very shortly. That's how it works. So stress can be something internal, but it's usually caused by something external. But the internal stuff is like perfectionism. It's usually things that we need to deal with on a one-to-one level. Perfectionists, you don't have to do anything to stress them out. They just have to look at something and see a dirty spot, and it's like, Anxiety, on the other hand, very similar to stress. It shares the same symptoms, but here's how it kind of is mostly different. Anxiety is mostly triggered internally. Your thoughts, your worries, other things that are inside. Anxiety triggers are not easy to identify. With stress, if I tell you, you got to do this by a certain date, what's the trigger? A deadline. In anxiety, you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're feeling anxious and anxiety starts to take over and you think, in about 18 seconds, I'm going to have a panic attack. What triggered it? What? Maybe a thought. What else could have triggered it? Okay, what else could have?
Just be a subconscious thing that's going on that you're not even aware
of. The problem with anxiety, something triggers it, you don't know what, it just goes off by itself. And it has no rhyme or reason. That's why anxiety is so hard to deal with. That's why most people who go to therapists are dealing with what? Anxiety. Because it's hard to find out what triggered it. Sometimes it's easy because, stress and anxiety hang out together. It might be the same trigger. But when anxiety goes off without stress, you're left wondering why. Anxiety is persistent and causes excessive thoughts and judgments. Anxiety doesn't resolve in tandem with the trigger. Sometimes you can fix the trigger and the anxiety is still going off. Anxiety is very tricky and it gets confused with stress. Anxiety symptoms, while like that of stress, can often feel more intense. So are you starting to see the difference between the two? Because you are going to be experts at it by the end of this. Anxiety is not a symptom of stress. They do not have to be related. And most people have a problem with this because when you feel stressed, what do you say to yourself? I'm feeling anxious. When you have anxiety, what do you say? I'm so stressed out. We don't have our definitions down. We don't really know what's happening. So that's what this workshop's about. But anxiety is not a symptom of stress. While stress can be a symptom of anxiety, anxiety is not a symptom of stress. Sure, you can feel anxious when you're stressed out, but you will not experience anxiety in the same way that anxiety sufferers feel it, because it's not the same thing. Does that make sense to you? Because if it doesn't, I have to explain it more. One could trigger the other doesn't trigger. Anxiety is its own little animal there. And sometimes people with anxiety have a lot of stress. And sometimes people with no stress have a lot of anxiety. They're separate animals, and you have to understand this. You can have anxiety without stress. Are you ready for this one? Because this one takes a little explaining. One of the biggest differences between stress and anxiety is that you can have anxiety without stress. Feelings of emotional and physical tension can be symptoms, and stress can follow being anxious and suffering from anxiety, but you can have anxiety without stress. It's possible to live a completely stress-free life and suffer from anxiety. You can be on a vacation in your dream spot with, all kinds of fruit juices and food and people massaging your toes and, manicure. You can have the time of your life, be as stress-free as possible, and have an anxiety attack for no reason. They are not related. So get this out of your mind. Every time I talk to people about anxiety and stress, they say one triggers the other. That is not necessarily true. Anxiety is its own beast. It goes off even if you are stress-free. Are you picking up on that? You got any questions about that?
This is hard because this is like
okay, modern myth says that they're both the same thing, and they both go off together, but that is not true. You have to deal with anxiety differently than stress. They are not related. They're cousins. They might be kissing cousins, and that's awful, because especially since I grew up in Nova Scotia, it might be terrible, but they're not related, okay? You do not need a stressor to set off anxiety. It will do it all on its own. It has its own timetable. It has its own way of messing up your life. And when it goes off, there's not a whole lot you can do with it unless you're prepared for it. Is anxiety set off by worry? Not always. Worry is one subset of what anxiety might be, but worry doesn't have to include it. Panic attacks have to do with fear, not worry. So there are a whole bunch of general things that anxiety fits into. Worry, people who worry a lot and they worry about everything, that is anxiety. But there are people who don't worry about anything, but they're scared of everything, and that's anxiety too. So anxiety, I told you, it's a weird beast, and we're going to be spending a couple workshops on it. I just want to get stress out of the way, because half of the questions about anxiety is stress. And once we get stress sorted out, we're good. What's anxiety keeps hanging around after the problem is resolved. And that's what you got to know. It is its own beast. It has set up some kind of loop in your brain. And unless you take proper steps, you can resolve it, but it isn't resolved. Stress is usually the result of reacting to external pressures. Anxiety is not. Anxiety often comes on with no rhyme or reason, while stress typically dissipates once the problem is resolved. Anxiety continues on long after, when there's nothing stressful or upsetting going on. So you're a Disney princess. You go out in the backyard to feed the birds. The wind is blowing. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. Give us food, give us food, give us food. Everything is so beautiful. And in the midst of your feeding the birds
and dancing and twirling.
life is good. All of a sudden, you have an anxiety attack. Why? Things are too good. Something bad has to happen. You'd be surprised that's one of the situations. How many people, when everything's going right, they say to themselves, all right, what's going to happen? Okay, it's so anxiety is a strange little beast. It is formed by a whole bunch of incoherent thoughts that just randomly set off, and they cause you a lot of distress. And if you aren't used to dealing with your thoughts, anxiety is a beast that just goes off by itself. Just poof, and you're anxious like all get out. Here's some facts about stress. The term stress, as it relates to the human condition, emerged in scientific literature in the 1930s. If you were around in World War I, they never talked about stress. They didn't know the concept. It developed in about the 30s. It really didn't enter our common vernacular till the 70s. So right after the hippies took out the 60s, man, stress started in the 70s. I find that funny. But anyways, Canada is the third most stressed country in the world. They've gone around to different countries, mostly. What? We're sorry. They've gone around to a lot of countries, and they have found that Canada is Canadians love to stress out. That's one of the things. There's only 2 countries that are worse than Canada. You're thinking, what are those 2 countries? I should have memorized them. Argentina is number 1 at 49%. Canada is number 3 at 43%. Germany's at 21%. I'm going to go live in Germany. Nothing stresses those boys out. I'm just telling you. It's like, even the United States isn't as stressed out as Canada. That's mostly because we have to deal with whatever. All right. Yeah, I'm zipping it. Okay. Researchers have found that ignoring stress makes it worse. If you do not address stress, it will just get worse. So the key is addressing, stress. Stress is not always bad. It can be It can be positive and motivating. That's one thing you learn about stress is there is good stress. Amen? Don't we love good stress? Yeah. I'm getting married tomorrow. Is that good stress or bad stress? That's just a question. That's good stress, According to the APA, long-term high stress can weaken the immune system and exhaust the body. You were talking about burnout. Burnout happens, you kind of get stressed, and all of a sudden you go into high stress. You stay there for too long. What happens is your body gets exhausted and you get really tired. If you keep working beyond exhaustion, that's burnout. And guess what? It does something to your immune system, and it exhausts you. And as plenty of studies have shown, stress is a killer. I'm not going through all the scientific stuff that it does to you, but it can kill you. They've done studies on people under stress, and their arteries and their veins actually constrict. There's less blood flow. When that happens, there's more inflammation, more everything. And that's one of the effects of stress. So stress can be a killer. Lastly, and you'll be pleased to know, chewing gum makes you more alert, relieves stress, and reduces anxiety. I was going to hand out gum to everybody. But then I realized the only gum I had is 5 years old, and Tastes awful, so I'll spare you from it. Any questions on the facts about they have done studies, and people that chew gum are less stressed. I don't know where it comes from, but if you research stress facts online, chewing gum is a small way to relieve stress. Yeah, well, I didn't do anything on stress balls. I just stopped at chewing gum. There's a million more facts I could have put up with. I just thought chewing gum was funny. Yeah, yeah. In sports, they use gum until they make the wrong move and swallow it. And did you have a question? Yeah. There are lots of ways to. There are lots of things that can relieve stress, but anyways, I just wanted to mention the gum. We got gum, sunflowers, and crunchy things. All right, we're good. So oh, not Lego. Not Lego. So open up your workbooks, and there is a quiz there. And in the quiz, there's 1A and 1B all the way down to 8A and 8B. There are 2 comments. One is stress, one is anxiety. So you can look at 1A and 1B and figure out which one is stress, which one is anxiety. It's on the 3rd page, I think. I'll give you 20 seconds to finish it. And if you're online, you can probably see my thing on screen, so you can do that, David.
Yep, I see it.
All right. Really? You're finished that quick? All right. Almost everybody's finished except for David. He's still going. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the chewing makes you slower. Doing 2 things at once, you shouldn't do that, right? All right, you got 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes. And the person to your left.
All right, so let's take this up. In 1A, is that stress or anxiety?
Stress.
Anybody put anxiety? You put anxiety? It is actually stress. I told you it's tricky knowing the difference with these things. So if A is stress, what's B?
Anxiety.
You guys are good. All right. In 2A, stress or anxiety? All right, anybody put stress? It is anxiety. 3A.
Anxiety.
3A is anxiety. 4A.
Stress.
Everybody got stress? All right. 5A.
Stress.
Stress? Oh, good job. 6A.
Anxiety.
6A is anxiety. 7A.
Stress.
All right. 8A.
Anxiety.
All right. There is the key for you, the answer key. So how many got 8 out of 8? Yeah, we're doing good. 7 out of 8? 6 out of 8? 5? 4? 3? I failed this first time I looked at it. It's like, what? I didn't do so good.
Well, if you didn't have the definition before taking this test,
Yep.
it would have been very tricky.
Yeah, you should have done the test first just to see how messed up everybody was. But anyways, a lot of people who would take that test would not know, they would just be guessing. But you guys are now informed and know the difference between stress and anxiety. Is that good?
Yes.
That is a huge step.
Can't fix a problem until you can identify it.
Usually,
The first step is to acknowledge something.
yeah, and sometimes you can fix it with a 6-foot hole, but I mean, yeah. I have a short video. I'm only going to play the first 4 minutes or so of this video, and I don't know how to start it. So Marcus is going to start it for me. Yeah. That's the commercial. So we pause for station identification. We got 2 commercials. Oh, great. We can skip this one. Skip. Okay, we can't skip it. You're gonna watch the whole thing. I hope it isn't one of those 5-minute ones. Just play it. We can go back in later. It's a long one. Just skip. Exit and skip. Oh, same thing. Should have downloaded it. You got the link, right? I just play the link by itself outside this. I can fast forward to this.
It was 10 seconds. No patience.
Hey, man.
There's only like 10 seconds left.
All right. Small video on stress. Actually, it's a long video. We're only going to watch a couple minutes of it.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? How about a moderate amount of stress?
Moderate.
Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this: I am a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years, and they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide.
Where access is
That's good.
effortless, innovation is lived,
Kill it. And we can go back to the, oh, cool. Yeah, we're there. What did you think of that video? Because there was the science that came up to about the year 2000, and the early science on stress is it's a killer. It will kill you. But based on more research, in Stanford and Harvard and some of these universities, they found out that it wasn't the stress really killing you. What they found out is what you believe about stress does the damage. In fact, they went to people and they said, you know, is stress bad for your health? And the person said no. They measured it. The blood flow doesn't restrict. But when the person said, yes, stress is very bad for you, I can't take it, the blood flow is restricted. And what they found is that the body actually works differently if you believe stress is harmful as opposed to you believe stress is helpful. And I shared this in sermons a while ago, but this is where the research is taken from. Stress really does its damage if you give it the power to do damage. If you believe stress is bad, it's going to do something to you. If you believe stress is something else, it will do something else to you. And there's a lot of research behind that. So I showed the first 4 minutes of that video. There's a whole bunch, there's 20 more minutes, but it goes on to the same thing. If you believe stress is bad, it will kill you. If you believe stress is good, it really won't kill you. It doesn't increase your likelihood of death at all, as opposed to 43%. So what do you think about those statistics?
Now this is a perception, a belief, a behavior problem.
Well, it's one of the common myths about stress and also anxiety. If you think it's bad for you, it's going to kill you, it kills you. If you think it's great and it's, you know, exciting and something else, it doesn't have that effect on you. But what's the difference in these two people's lives? It's basically what you believe. And this is Ty and Carly, a couple students from Wingham. And they work in the Timmy's in Wingham. There's only one Timmy. So anyways, they graduated their senior year of high school, and they both are going to Waterloo. This is a couple years ago. They both went to Waterloo for their school. And I want to read you Ty and Carly's story. Ty perceives the move. So it's the end of the summer. They're about to go down to Waterloo. Ty perceives the move as overwhelming, triggering significant stress. He worries about leaving a familiar environment, adjusting to the fast-paced life of a university, and the challenges of living independently for the first time. In this case, the move acts as a stimulus that triggers a significant stress reaction in Ty, characterized by feelings of homesickness, anxiety, and concerns about managing new responsibilities. He's all stressed out. He's breaking down. The girl he worked with, Carly, also went to school with, also grew up together, going to the same university, taking a different major, but contrasting with Ty, Carly views the move as an exciting opportunity for growth. She feels anticipation and optimism, demonstrating that the same situation, moving to a university residence, can be perceived very differently. For Carly, this is not a source of stress, but an exciting new chapter as they look forward to a new experiences and independence. Now, that's a case study. Two people with the same event, coming from the same background, coming from the same town, knows each other. They went to university together. One is at the point of dropping out because they just can't handle it. The other one is energized and pumped and thriving. So what does this case study tell us about stress? Perception makes all the difference. Okay, what else? Anything else? You, there is a power you can have over it. You've got choices. Big one. Yeah. Okay. What do you think? Why do you think? Oh, you were going to say something, David? Or
I was just going to say the same stressor can be experienced in different ways by different people with these two. And it's interesting because maybe the broader implication of that is that we can actually sort of help one another out when facing the same thing, but because maybe we have a better tolerance for it than the next person for whatever reason.
Yeah, thank you for that. I will put it in my notes. You'll see it later. Why do you think there's such a difference in reaction between Ty and Carly over the same event? Perspective. There is a different perspective. Why?
One sees new opportunities as something to be afraid of.
Yep.
Or feeling unprepared about, where the other one sees new opportunities as a chance for growth.
Yep.
And
why?
I would think upbringing, past experience.
Upbringing and past experiences. One learned to be afraid of life. One learned to challenge it. And that's the huge, and if you looked into their past, you would see a common thread in both of their lives in how they deal with stress. And
how their parents mirrored stress for them.
yeah, and we can do the same thing. We can change our response to stress. How do you think their situations are going to affect their academic performance? You think Carly is going to do better than Ty, all things being equal? Yeah. Ty is he won't be able to study. He's losing sleep. Carly's pumped, man. She doesn't need sleep. If you think about Ty's reaction and his feelings of anxiety, what do you think might be going on? And this is where it gets a little tricky. Ty might be feeling anxiety with his stress. He might be anxious, just worried about going to school, and his thoughts are giving him anxiety. That's where the stress is coming from. So this might be a case between one person handling stress well and one person not handling anxiety well. Now, anyways, things to think about. So we got some action steps. Any questions about stress before I go on? If you want to deal with stress, we need to get some basics down. And here are the basics. Here's a stress management worksheet. You like your stress management worksheet? Before stress happens, and this is definitely before stress happens, you got to take care of some stuff. And you got to figure out what stresses you out. What's already been noted, we have different stressors. We relate differently to the same events. What stresses you out? And so identify the stressor. Then if I am stressed, well, if you're going to be stressed. So something is coming up in the near future. You put the problem in there. Am I going to be stressed when this happens? Yes, I'm going to be stressed. All right. What is the stressor? What specifically is going to stress me out? So identify it. You make a list of everything that stresses you out. Now, this is just for one problem, but you can journal and make a list of things. There'll be some common things that stresses out, doesn't stress somebody else out.
You can break down each one of your stressors one by one.
Yep. That's what you got to do before stress hits, because we're planning for it. What? Yeah, I get anxious doing this stuff too, man. It's like, I don't want to fill out your dumb list. Okay. Why is it a stressor? What demands is it making of you that you can't meet? And that's what you got to figure out. Because usually it stresses you out because you're going to need to pay the loan shark $100 and you only got 50. So the demands are $100, the resources are only 50. You've got to find another $50. So you go to the baby's college fund and take it out. Have you got this? Have you got this down pat? Can you see the pattern?
So step one, identify if I'm stressed. That's not stress or identify the stressor.
Now, the demands are, why is this a stressor? What is it asking of me that I can't provide? Because if somebody asks me for 10 cents, that doesn't stress me out. If someone asked me for $5,000, that might stress me out if I wanted to provide it. Because I might not have the resources, but I want to help. So the demands are, in order to meet, the stressor, in order to get past it, what is it asking of me and what can I bring to the table? That's the demand and the resources. And the difference between the demand and the resources is the amount of stress. And that's what you got to find a solution for. But you got to know this beforehand. Everybody knows what they're stressed about. Nobody does anything about it. You got to know if you're going to have to make different choices than you did in the past. You're going to have to realize, in the past, I did this, it didn't work, so let's not do this again. Now, in any other world, this would be common sense. But because it's stress, it just happened. It came upon me. I didn't know about it. You knew it was coming, probably. You knew if it happened in the past, it'll probably happen again in the future, and you didn't plan for it. What does the book of Proverbs say about people that don't plan? Yeah. Plan for failure. All right. So do that before stress. Second thing you want to do before stress is determine or improve your stress management skills. Managing stress is all about taking charge of your thoughts, emotions, your schedule, your environment, and the way you deal with problems. The ultimate goal is a balanced life with time for work, relationships, relaxation, and fun, plus the ability to hold up under pressure and meet the challenges head on. In fact, the simple realization that you're in control of your life is the foundation of stress management. You're in control.
I have choices.
You've got choices. Make those choices. Now, sometimes when I come under stress, my choice is, I don't care. I don't care. And I let the stress, I let whatever the stressor is, just pass. And I'm like, I'm still alive. Somebody's disappointed, but oh well, I can handle what happens if I don't fix that. I get a deadline at work. I was given a deadline one time, got to have this done by the end of the day. I wrote an email back saying, it's not reasonable to ask me to have this done by the end of the day. I will have it done for you by the end of the week. This is a Monday. And I sent it back to the person that sent it to me. I sent it to my boss and a couple other people. And instead of having to work crazy all day long, my boss sent an email saying, yes, this is unreasonable. It'll be done by the end of the week. So he actually agreed with me. But if I hadn't done that one thing of managing my time and letting people know what I thought, I had to have 2 days work done by the end of the day. And it wasn't reasonable. Now, unfortunately, some of us have jobs that make us do unreasonable things. We need to manage that. And we've got choices.
So this was a case of you not being a people pleaser and seeing the reality of the situation and speaking up to a problem to adjust people's perception of time frame.
Yeah, I got to educate people.
Yes.
And I made a document of it just in case it came up at performance time, saying, yeah, I remember that event. Here's what I documented. Here's the emails.
Yes.
So yeah, I cover myself, but it's choices I make as opposed to what my colleagues do is panic, have a stress attack, end up almost in the hospital, and have something finished by the end of the day that isn't quality. So you're in control. So here is a diagram, what I can't control and a circle of what I can control. And at the top is a problem. So write a problem in, any problem will do. Come up with any problem you think of. And I'm about to start going at light speed. So any problem you want to think of, what can you control in that situation? What can you not control? And this gives you a little clarity. What I can't control is other people's reaction. What I can't control is the dice roll. What I can control is if somebody gets mad at me and throws the game board at me. What I can control is,
If you have a coworker who throws you into the bus.
yeah, I can't control those things. But what can I control? What?
Your response.
I can control my response. What else can I control?
Control what happens before the interaction.
I can control my choices made before preparing for this. What else can I control?
Whether I worry about it.
I can control my thoughts about this situation and whether I want to turn this into anxiety. Okay? And start a pattern where I just worry all the time. What else can I control?
Choices and thoughts that you control.
Choices, thoughts, resources,
Yes, preparation.
myself. What?
You can reach out to your as well, discuss ideas.
I can control reaching out to friends and family and resources and professionals and anybody else. That's within my control. I cannot control what other people do. I cannot control whether the sun comes up. I can't control certain things. And knowing what you can and can't control should be able to help you deal with stress.
I like what you said earlier. You said, I didn't do something and people were disappointed, but that's okay. So what you're saying is in that, I had a choice to make. One of the consequences when people were disappointed, but you also had a choice to say, I'm not going to be defined by other people's disappointments.
What I can control is what I do. And one of the things I can control is looking at what I perceive to be their reaction. And if they're going to be disappointed with me, my control is I can't change that, so I'll live with it. People disappointed me all the time. For some reason, they don't like job. I cook chop for them and they won't eat it. It's like, I'm so disappointed. I can't control that. All right. During stress, here's a good thing to do during stress. And once you think about it this way, it becomes second nature. You think about it the first time, maybe not so second nature, but I got a map here. So there is a stressor, and the primary appraisal is I make a choice. I look at what's stressing me out and I make a choice. What choice do I make? I kind of look at it and I say, all right, I need to appraise this threat. I need to look at it and determine one of two things. What am I determining in my first appraisal?
Challenge or threat?
If you are stressed out all the time, what is your appraisal a lot of times? It's a threat. What does your brain do with a threat?
Fight or flight.
What?
Fight or flight.
Yeah, it produces all kinds of chemicals, and your body starts getting sick and all kinds of bad stuff. What if I decide it's an opportunity for growth? So, yeah. And I start doing research and I start figuring out, how can I beat this? What's that thing Captain Kirk does? Karmaguchi effect or what?
What?
The
The thing that it cheated on?
yeah.
The Kobayashi Maru test, which was a no-win situation, he cheated it.
Captain Kirk had a way to beat an unbeatable system called the Kamarashi. Whatever. It's called something funky.
All right, you're not the Trekkie.
I am a Trekkie. I remember but you got two choices. You can give in to the threat or you can try to beat the threat. And when you see it as a challenge, that is the change of mindset that turns stress from deadly into beneficial. And it's just that one mindset. Hey, you know what? This is a challenge in life and I'm going to face it. I'm going to beat it. And if I don't beat it, I'll beat it next time. And
That's also part of the preparation is saying I can fail and it doesn't mean I'm worthless.
Part of what I'm doing is, I'm looking at failure and saying, I can handle it. I can handle it. Yeah. So is it a threat or a challenge? Now, you have to be really careful. Make sure you know the difference between a threat and a challenge. A grizzly bear sees me from a mile away, grunts and starts running towards me. Now, that is a huge challenge because I will be able to show the world my kung fu. And I will take that grizzly bear down with a flying elbow to the head, and that grizzly bear will, what happened? And I will be on news stations everywhere. I will be a star. They will call me the new Avenger. I'm just telling you, that grizzly bear is in trouble.
Chuck Norris.
What? I'm taking over for Chuck Norris. Yeah. Now, is that a realistic evaluation of an opportunity? Yeah, that's definitely a threat, and I'm basically running for my life. And since I grew up a bit in Vancouver, I know not to climb a tree or do certain things. So I got 1 mile. I got about 20 seconds to get out of his way and find safety. You have to look at what really is a threat. I have to give a workshop at 11:30. And it's stressing me out. So my mouth goes dry and I'm like halfway to a panic attack. Is that a challenge or a threat? No, it's a threat. It's a threat. It's a challenge if I got some Gatorade to keep my mouth going. So is it a challenge or a threat? If you are working on beating stress and changing your mindset, you're going to see most things as a challenge. Now, if you decide it's a threat, you got to come down and decide, is it a low threat or a high threat? A grizzly bear coming after me is what?
High
High threat. If I decide public speaking is a threat, is that a high threat or a low threat? And for me right now, it's a low threat. It used to be high. I used to almost pass out and get dizzy. I'd have to keep moving. Weeble wobble, weeble wobble. Can you see that? During a stress event, you decide, is it going to take charge of my life, or am I going to use this as an opportunity for growth? It might beat me, but I'm going to learn from it. That's your choice. When stress happens, you prepare for it beforehand, but when it happens, you say, hey, I'm going to kick this thing. If you don't kick it, it doesn't matter. You've learned, because education is part of learning about stress. Next thing you do is you assess what the demand and your resources are. Can I use my problem solving skills? Can I use my decision making skills? Can I use my critical thinking skills? Can I use my communication skills? Can I use my budgeting skills? Can I use my academic skills? Can I use other skills? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, in one of the charts you had, there was a choice, and I think I have passed it, but there was a choice about whether this threat is a real threat or an imagined threat.
That was the victory over stress.
Yeah.
Page 4.
Yep.
It says my stressor is real, self-created, or a combination of real and self-created.
Now, what does created mean? Your stressor is created. If I'm a perfectionist and I'm given a task to do, what do I want that task to look like when it's finished?
Perfect.
I want it to be perfect. Now, if it's a task that requires 5 days to be somewhat perfect, and I only have 2 days to do it in, is it going to be perfect? But it's going to be a lot of stress to me because I want it to be perfect. So now I'm trying to do a perfect 5-day job in 2 days, and I'll probably mess it up, but have I created that stress? It can be done by most people in 2 days, but it can't be done perfectly in 2 days. What do I need to do? Oh, it can be done by most people in 2 days. Yeah, I want to take 5 days and make it perfect. Okay, and I'm stressed because they're asking me to do it in 2 days, and it's just going to be generally good, but it's not going to be up to my own standards. Is that a real? That's a created problem. A lot of us create our own stress by how we think and what the demands we put on ourselves. We have to nix that. That's part of the education. And when we're in the stress event, we have to look at that and say, is this something I created myself? Do I have the skills to get past this? And, am I asking too much? So we think perfectionism is actually a skill set. It's not. It's a detriment to our health. And we need to make sure we don't consider that a resource, but a demand on us that isn't reasonable. And there's a lot of work going through this to take care of the stress. If you don't take care of the stress, it will. What else do we do if we assess that we don't have the skills needed to get this stressor done? What are we tempted to do? We're tempted to run away and hide. What we need to do is we need to phone a friend. You ever see that game show? What would you like to do? Would you like to phone a friend? If you, they have done study after study after study, and in the midst of a stress event, if you actually phone a friend just to talk, guess what? It lowers their stress. Just by talking. That's because we're relational creatures, aren't we? Now, we want to run away and hide because we don't want people to see that we're going to fail. But what we need to do is we need to run to people that we can count on and trust. And this was during the pandemic, before and after. But during the pandemic, all you could do was phone call, and they measured this on people. And they found out if you did the first 7 things, it would really help you manage your stress. And what's that? Phone a friend to catch up. Hey, what's happening in your life? Phone a friend for some meaningful talk. Hey, how's your pet mouse? How's Kira? Yeah, it's like, or joking around. Hey, I hear your marriage is going great. Oh no, that was the meaningful talk. Sorry, it's joking around with Kira. All right. Number 4, showing care. Just phoning somebody up and saying, I love you. I care about you. Been praying for you lately. Click. Number 5, just listening. Hey, what do you want to talk about? I got nothing to talk about. You got something? I got 5 minutes. I paid for the phone call. And just listen. Just listening to somebody on the phone took care of stress. Valuing others and their opinions. Getting in a little discussion. Offering sincere compliments. Phoning them up and say, hey, man, you did that workshop on Sunday. It was great. I don't get any of those phone calls. I'm just saying it'll make you feel better. Anyways, number 8 I added, and that if you need, it was already mentioned, phone a friend and get some advice. With many advisors comes success. If it's too much for you and you're not sure where to go with this event, phone a friend and get some advice. That's pretty simple information to put out there. Amen? So put that out there because most of us want to keep our stress to ourselves. We don't like people to know, especially when it's eating us up and it's starting to affect our life. But this is another way you can start to deal with something. Plan, prepare, deal with it, call in reinforcements. And after the event, here's what you do. You evaluate the situation. You prepare a plan for next time. You do that before the event and after the event, because after the event is before the what? The next event.
Kind of do like a postmortem to see
where I did good, where I did bad,
and what I need to work on.
what I need to work on. And most of us need to work on the relational part of not keeping it to ourselves. And if you keep stress to yourself and you keep some of that stuff, you're probably keeping anxiety to yourself. And if you keep anxiety to yourself, it's not a good solution. Maybe stress you can get over. You can be a lone wolf, but with anxiety, it will set itself up in a very bad way. So here are just some practical steps you can come after the stress event. You may make plans to involve creating boundaries to protect yourself. Sometimes you're stressed because you don't make the right boundary. You let people walk all over you. And you shouldn't have done that. And they're going to do it again unless you do what? You set up a boundary. Or you can plan, it may involve acquiring new skills. Hey, you know what? I made some crummy decisions during that last stress event. I have to make better decisions. And you read a book on decision making. Or your plan may involve replacing unhealthy coping strategies with new ones.
So that kind of Haagen-Dazs is not doing me any good?
Yeah, you know what? I thought maybe if I drank a half bottle of, Johnny Walker's, that would help me, but it didn't do very much good. So I need a new coping strategy. I need some new skills and I need some new ways of dealing with that stress. And that involves research, that involves talking to friends. You got to do something. I am telling you, if you handle stress by doing any of a number of negative coping strategies, and we're going to talk more about that next time. What are some negative coping strategies that you think can help you deal with stress, but really don't do much good? Drinking, drugs, complaining. What?
Overeating, yeah.
No, junk food is valid, but overeating junk food is not. Yeah. Some people go into junk food. They get on a sugar high.
Shopaholics.
What?
Shopaholics.
Oh, yeah. They buy lots of Lego. It's very bad.
No, Lego's good.
No, Lego bad. What else? Other means of coping with all this running away with garbage inside. What else? What?
Secluding yourself.
Yeah, isolating yourself. Just going into rooms saying nobody cares. Poor me. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing, victim mentality.
Victim mentality, okay.
Ruminating.
Going over worry or fear. Okay. Suicide, cutting yourself, putting yourself down, going out and just finding somebody to beat you up. I used to go out and just try to get into trouble so I could get a fight, just so somebody would pound me and I could pound them, and it felt good beating somebody. Risky behavior is another one. Hey, let's go out in town tonight and see how many people throw knives at me because my kung fu is good. Okay. Maybe you need better coping strategies because the ones you have don't work. Plan how to avoid unnecessary stress. If going over to the family Christmas dinner is going to be bad for me, maybe I'll go somewhere else for Christmas dinner. Plan how you can alter the same situation in the future. Be more assertive. Don't take a back seat in your own life. Make choices. Adapt to the stressor. If you can't change it, change yourself. Amen? Adjust your standards. Perfectionism is a major source of avoidable stress. Deal with your perfectionistic attitudes. Deal with your thoughts that if I just try harder, it'll be better. Deal with your legalism, whatever thoughts they are, deal with them, make them better. And the last one is accept what you cannot change. You cannot change everything. I can't control what I can't control. So sometimes you're in a bad situation and you just have to adapt to it. You just have to take it as it is. I had a job once and my boss didn't listen to boundaries or anything else I put up. I just had to endure it and say, when I got home, I went to Sonia, my boss is a jerk, he's a punk. And I just had to live with it. And I found a way to be victorious over it after about 6 months. And then it didn't bother me anymore. But that was a lot of planning and reading and what can I do about this? I can't change the situation, but I can change myself. So I just accept it for what it is. All right, that is the end of our workshop. So hopefully there's one thing you can take out of this or a step. Wholeness is a journey. It begins with learning something and just making small improvements. Amen. And question and answer. And next week is Easter Sunday. So join us if you have nothing to do on Easter Sunday. We'll be singing and doing all kinds of stuff. We have palm branches today. So if you haven't slapped somebody with a palm branch, now's your chance.
Is this the stress relief part of the workshop?
That's the stress release part of the workshop. I didn't mention it, but slapping somebody with a palm leaf is really a good stress. And anyways, any questions? It's 12:46, so we need to close and wrap up. But do you understand stress better?
And this is not something that's going to go away overnight, and it's not something that you're going to be victorious the first time you try it.
No.
It's going to be one of those things that going into it and saying, I'm not going to be perfect at this, and
That's okay. You're not going to get rid of stress. It's part of our lives. So either it's going to beat you or you're going to beat it. You're going to do that Kogoroshi maneuver or whatever. Kobo, yeah, that thing that sounds like a sushi dish. You're going to do that thing. Yeah. Even to the point of now, it not technically cheating, but how can I basically look at this and make up new rules? It's like you do that and you're playing games. Oh yeah, well, you're not allowed to rule 7 twice. But sometimes just being creative in how you deal with stress does a lot of work. All right. Thank you for joining us on this is our first workshop on stress and anxiety. Next time we will be dealing with unhealthy thinking habits that happen in stress, but more happen in anxiety. And we're going to be walking through those and finding out how we can really challenge some of the ways we think, which adds to our stress and anxiety. Amen.
Amen. All right.
To understand the difference between stress and anxiety, and also that little quiz.
Yep.
To say one thing is going to be short term.
Yep.
And it will be relieved when that's over, kind of thing. Different one we'll deal with when we go further. But the idea of, if I can see stress as something that is comes and it goes, periodic.
Yep.
But it also depends on how I perceive it and what I believe about it. That changes everything, and it's not going to be harmful to me if I don't let it.
Change your view of stress, and it changes the pressure.
Yeah.
The stress is going to change, but it doesn't have to break you. Anxiety will break you. We got to work on special things with anxiety, but stress, just like Carly, she was excited to go to university. Yeah, I was excited to go to university until I got there. And after the first week, it was like, I was wrong. I want to go back home. Yep, stress is part of life.
That things like the common across other people have gone through before you. So
Everybody.
there are a lot of resources you can pull from to help you navigate that.
There's nothing new that we go through that somebody else hasn't gone through. That's why phone a friend is so effective. Everything that you've gone through, everything you're thinking, everything you're feeling, somebody else has felt the same way, thought the same way, and dealt with the same issues. There's no shame in it. We're all human. We've all dealt with the same things. Maybe you're dealing with, something a little stronger than most people, but there's nothing new under the sun. The same things we're dealing with, Solomon dealt with, except for cell phones. I'm pretty sure he didn't have to deal with cell phones, but other than that, yeah. Same stress.
The wisdom and the skills that we gained when we went through it, we can be there and help the next person going through it. And that also is a healing process. Which
is why I wish Solomon was here. He had 1,000 wives. Could you imagine the wisdom that boy had? Anyways, thank you. And we'll see you at the next workshop, hopefully.
Next one is anxiety.
Continuation.
Part two.
Part 2, and there's probably a part 3, and maybe